Princess Program. Book 1.
Chapter 7, The Athletics Day Conflict. The announcement had come earlier that week. The princesses of St. Joseph's were invited to the convent of the Holy Infant's annual Athletics Day. The event promised vibrant energy, with students and staff gathering to celebrate sportsmanship and competition. While the princesses weren't allowed to participate in the events, they were asked to play a supporting role as cheerleaders. It was an honor, Mrs. Carter had said, but Chris wasn't entirely sure. He'd be prancing around in a short skirt in front of a whole school of girls. Still, Chris was excited for another reason: Natalie. As one of the convent's champion runners, Natalie had been training tirelessly for weeks, and Chris wanted to be there to support her. When the day arrived, the princesses donned their cheer uniforms, sleeveless white t-shirts and green mini-skirts, perfectly matching the school's colors. Chris, with a braided ponytail, adjusted his outfit nervously, the cheerleader ensemble feeling foreign yet empowering. The athletics field buzzed with activity. Students crowded the bleachers in a sea of blue and green, the convent school colors, their excited chatter blending with the rhythmic pounding of feet on the track. Chris and the other princesses positioned themselves along the sidelines, waving pom-poms and cheering enthusiastically as the runners competed. Natalie was in her element. Her effortless strides and focused determination made her a standout, and Chris found himself shouting her name louder than anyone else. He couldn't help but beam with pride as Natalie crossed the finish line in first place in all three of her events. However, not everyone was thrilled with the princess's presence. A group of convent students stood nearby, whispering and casting disdainful glances at Chris and the others. "I don't get why they're even here," one girl said loudly enough for Chris to hear. "It's so ridiculous. They're not part of this school. They are not even real girls." Chris's stomach twisted. He tried to ignore them, focusing on the next event, but the comments kept coming. "Look at them, pretending to be all cute," another girl sneered. "It's pathetic." Chris felt his confidence waver. He had grown comfortable in his role over the months, but the pointed remarks made him question everything. Were they right? Did he belong here, dressed like this, cheering on the sidelines? Tension came to a head during a break between events. One of the girls approached Chris directly, her arms crossed and a smug expression on her face. "So, are you really enjoying pretending to be one of us?" she asked, her tone dripping with condescension. Chris opened his mouth to respond but found himself at a loss for words. His cheeks burned with embarrassment as the other girls snickered behind her. Before he could fully process the situation, Natalie appeared, her presence like a storm breaking over the confrontation. "What's your problem?" Natalie demanded, her voice firm and unwavering. She stepped between Chris and the girl, her protective stance unmistakable. "If you have something to say, you can say it to me." The girl faltered under Natalie's glare, muttering something unintelligible before retreating. Natalie didn't let her go quietly. "You know what?" Natalie called after her, her voice sharp and cutting. "Chris has stood up for me more than anyone ever has. He's twice the person you'll ever be because he'd never stoop so low as to judge someone for how they live their life." Natalie turned back to Chris, her expression softening. "Don't listen to them," she said gently. "They don't know you like I do." By the time they returned to the dorm that evening, Chris's emotions had overwhelmed him. Chris didn't understand what got him so upset. He was never the type to cry over a few mean remarks. But he felt the emotions, and tears streamed uncontrollably down his face as he sat on his bed, hands on his face. Natalie sat beside him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders, handing him a tissue. "You're stronger than this," Natalie said softly. "They're just jealous because you have the courage to be yourself." Chris wiped his eyes, taking a shaky breath. "I don't know why I'm so affected by this. I know they are not right. I know I'm not just pretending." Natalie shook her head firmly. "Exactly. You're not pretending, Chris. You're being you, and that's more than they'll ever understand." Her words brought a small measure of comfort, but the doubt lingered. As Chris lay in bed that night, He resolved to face whatever came next with the same determination that had brought him this far. He wasn't ready to give up, not yet.
Princess Program. To be continued.